everyone. I'm still working on my video for my dream as well as Glenn's dream, and it's been nothing but distraction after distraction today. However, I did make a little series, as you're all aware, Aliens Are Demons 1 and 2, and this certainly goes with it as it's a testimony by a doctor, a psychiatrist that verifies exactly what I told you before. Now, with the exponential rise and recent activity, I thought this may be a good time to share this video with you. Now, given the things I've already told you, Doctor Hugh Ross actually sounds quite viable and reliable. Anyways, let me know what you guys think.
Dealing with people that tell me they've had encounters with aliens or flying saucers or UFOs, I ask them a lot of questions. And often when people tell me they've been abducted, it's a psychological experience they're having. It's not really an encounter with UFO beings. However, I found some that really are an encounter with UFO beings. But in every single case, it only happens to individuals who are very deep into the occult or witchcraft. And I've also seen people who've had these experiences. And as I encourage them to eliminate all that occult and witchcraft experiences out of their life, get rid of all the articles, that's the end of their UFO encounters. That's the end of the communications. That's the end of them having these trips that they hallucinate about being on alien spacecraft. Close the doors of the occult. That's an end to that, which tells me that this UFO phenomena. Now, I want to be clear here. 99% of what people report to me as UFOs are natural phenomena, hoaxes, or military activity. But there is a 1% residual. And what's interesting about that 1%, it's real, but it violates the laws of physics. I'll give you one quick example. There are about 2,000 documented cases of people reporting UFOs flying through the atmosphere, crashing into the Earth. And as they go through the atmosphere, their velocities are recorded at above 5,000 miles per hour. And yet there's no heat friction observed. There's no sonic boom. If that was a material object coming through our atmosphere, you would get both a sonic boom and you would see heat friction. That's not observed. You go to the crash site and you'll see a shallow crater. If there's snow, the snow is melted. The vegetation is damaged. But as you examine the crash site, there's no debris, there's no artifacts. So that's why I'm persuaded that this 1% residual, we're dealing with non-physical reality. And I had Carl Sagan as a professor when I was at the University of Toronto. He was adamant that UFOs don't exist at all, but his worldview did not tolerate the existence of non-physical reality. My worldview does. As I read this Bible, it tells me that God created beings that are intelligent, that are spiritual, but they're not physical, referring to the angels. And so I look at this as an angelic manifestation. And I also think we're dealing with the fallen angels, not the righteous angels, because when people have these encounters, these close encounters with UFOs, it's 100% deleterious. The best you're going to come away from with such an encounter is recurring, terrifying nightmares. What's the worst case scenario? People have been killed by these encounters. So injury is very common, but most frequently, it's the psychological damage that happens to these people. And then the messages that people receive when they get verbal contact with these UFO beings clearly is one of deception. So that's why I'm convinced we're dealing with the fallen angels, not the righteous angels. The percentage of people having these encounters is variable. It's high in equatorial Brazil. It's high in France. But these are parts of the world where you got a large percentage of the population involved in witchcraft and the occult. Where I saw the highest incidence is when I was speaking in the Soviet Union when the communists were still in control. I mean, that's when the Soviet government was sponsoring research in occult physics at their leading universities. So, a very high incidence. Now that the communists are not in control there, that level of UFO encounters in Russia has dropped considerably. And I see variations in the United States, higher in Alaska and Hawaii than it is, say, in Idaho and Minnesota. But again, there's a higher incidence of people involved in the occult. Here are some ways in which you invite demons. These fallen angels cannot invade your life and give you these UFO encounters unless you invite them. They need an invitation. And the invitation is when you begin to look for supernatural power or information. The demons are more than happy to provide you with this power, but it comes at a price. They are intent on deceiving you, they are intent on harming you. These fallen angels can also work through a close relative or a sexual partner. So if you got a close relative or a sexual partner that's deep into the occult, you need to confess what they're doing as a sin unto God. When you do that, that closes the door not for them, but for you and for people under your authority. If you're involved in a seance, you're basically inviting a demon to invade your life. Astrology would be another example, a Ouija board. So occult art, occult music. And I remember there was a couple in our church and they had just purchased a home. And they said, Hugh, there's actual spoons and knives floating in midair in this one room. And it feels really weird when we go into that room. And I said, well, the previous owners must have left behind an occult article. It took us a weekend to find it, but we discovered that there was a room that had been repainted. Underneath the new paint was this deep midnight blue, a favorite color for calling up demons. And we also found that there was a faint outline on the wall. And later on, we found an astrological forecaster in a pile of junk lumber in the garage. It exactly fit that faint outline on the wall. When we destroyed that item, that was the end of floating spoons and forks. That was the end of that room feeling weird. That couple has never had an encounter since. So sometimes it's an article left behind by somebody else. But if you get the occult out of your life, if you stop trying to pursue paranormal powers through reading occult books, that will be the end of your UFO encounters. Now, it works the other way. If you bring the occult in your life, and the more you bring in, the more likely you will to have these UFO encounters. And I find it interesting. I run into a lot of people that have repeated UFO encounters. And that's a clear sign to me they're really deep into the occult. And sometimes when I ask them questions, they say, there is no occult in my life. But as I ask them a lot of questions, they say, oh, that's the occult? I had no idea. And so, they say, oh, yeah, we had a Ouija board party at our home. Well, that's an occult invitation. Get that out of your life. That'll be the end of these encounters. And there's this real sense of relief when people get this out of their life. Their anxiety level goes down, they stop being depressed, but it's important that they open their hearts up to truth. Don't just let your heart be empty. You got rid of the bad stuff, you need to bring in the good stuff, the truth of what the Bible says about a God that wants a relationship with you, where he's going to deliver you from sin and evil step by step and transform you into the character of Christ. What a great offer.
King Jesus bless you all.